Before getting into the rest of the story, just a little about this website. Notice on the right, you will find the videos listed in the order they were meant to be played. Also notice by scrolling down my books and CDs that are available. Now I highly recommend not to view all these videos in one setting, because if you're anything like me, your attention span will fail. In fact, I caught myself drifting off to where my concentration level simply went flat. It was far better for me to view the videos in at least 2 or even 3 settings. Then one more thing I found to work really well for my concentration. Instead of watching the video, I followed the voice on the video when viewing the text below the video as it was playing. That's a simple thing, but it seemed to help a lot in retaining what was said. Now I'd like to say a little about the rest of the story within the concept being presented here. And it's just a reminder, in case you didn't know, that the creator of the universe is all-knowing. God is the Alpha and the Omega. So simply understand that he knows what he's doing in the training of us children. And never forget that he created all, the heavenly angels and us, with free will choice, knowing full well that his created didn't have a clue about what evil was. So simply take notice that God's whole plan, that's W-H-O-L-E, God's whole plan and purpose is focused on training his created to win us over to trust in seeing his ways as right. So would it be okay if we were to speculate a little about how God is going about this training process? Well, we know the Bible does have the story about how God mixed everything up after the flood with many different languages and skin colors. You know, God had to have a reason to do that. So what about all the many different religions? Doesn't it make sense that God has a reason for that as well? So going back to the first question, why has God allowed all the different churches? Well, understand that God had a rebellion problem within his children that really began in heaven, and he is simply working his plan in order to solve it. So just think about it. If you had a rebellion problem within your children, how would you go about to solve it? Doesn't it make sense to simply let us go to our own rebellious choice? How else are we ever going to learn the truth about anything? You see, Jesus couldn't tell us of his plan until now, because that would have spoiled the demonstration, because God knew his plan would have to be experienced before we would really understand it. And I know this could come as a shock when we discover God's plan. It could be the same experience as the prodigal son had with all his drummed up stories of at least being one of his father's servants. But remember, the father didn't pay any attention to his stories because it was obvious that his father accepted him home as a son. Now likewise, all of our numerous drummed up stories within our so-called plan of salvation theories with hundreds of different churches will no doubt be ignored by God, as he accepts everyone that's on the way home in the process of developing a teachable spirit. Jesus did try to tell us that our salvation was sure by beholding his character to the point of trusting in nothing else. Remember, there is no other way into heaven past trusting in his ways. So since we didn't understand, God had to allow the powers of this world to drum up all kinds of legal solutions in how to be saved, as a demonstration in how Satan distorts God's demands. Now I want to make sure you caught that. So again, God had to allow the powers of this world to drum up all kinds of legal solutions in how to be saved. And this is simply a demonstration in how Satan distorts God's demands. Have you noticed how wars are fought over these so-called demands? Visualize this as God's classroom, revealing to us how evil works in disguise. What I'm trying to point out is that there has been a universe-wide controversy over the character of God, caused by Lucifer, now known as Satan. He's trying to say that God's ways are too hard, conjuring up many plans to cause as much confusion as possible within many different ways of how to be saved. He has tried desperately to get our attention on legal ways of how to be saved within our many different churches, when the whole time the real issue is not over how to be saved. Instead, it's simply over God's character. You see, God's enemy wants to get our attention off of God's character and onto fighting among ourselves about how my way to heaven is better than yours. So, with that being said, you may now click on the rest of the story.